If you tell me what's in your biryani, I can tell you what century it came from. I can tell you which king's kitchen invented it, which empire was falling when it was born, and in one case, I can tell you exactly how broke the cook was. Biryani is a fossil record. Okay, here's what most people think happened. The Mughals brought biryani to India from Persia. End of story. But the actual history is so much stranger and interesting. Biryani did not arrive once, it arrived in waves. Different centuries, different routes, different kitchens. And every city that received it changed it so completely that the recipe itself became a timestamp. You can read a biryani the way a geologist reads rock layers, and each ingredient is a political event. Okay, let's start with what was already here. 2000 years ago, 1000 years before the first Mughal set foot in India, Tamil Sanun Suru. Une describes a dish called on suru. On is meat, suru is rice. It was made with ghee, turmeric, coriander, pepper, and bay leaf, cooked in a clay pot and served to Pandyan soldiers as a war ration. That's not biryani per se, but it's the structural idea, right? Spiced meat with rice cooked together, designed to feed an army. It was already present in South India in the 2nd century CE. The concept didn't need to be imported. What the Mughals imported was a technique and a word. Now, that word is biryani, from the Persian biryan, meaning to fry or to roast, describing the technique of frying rice in ghee before cooking it with meat. The Persians had been making pilau, aromatic rice with meat and saffron, since at least the 10th century, when the physicians Avicenna documented it. When the Mughals invaded India in 1526, they brought Persian court culture with them, including their cooks. And in the royal kitchen, something happened. Persian pilau met Indian spices, yogurt marinades, chilies, the slow cooking dum method, where the pot is sealed with dough and cooked over embers. And the result was a new dish. Not Persian anymore, not purely Indian either. The Ain-i-Akbari, written in 1590 during Akbar's reign, is the first text to list biryani by name, with specific recipes and exact ingredient quantities. It had become official. The Mughal court had given it a name, a method, and a menu entry. And then the empire started to fracture. A biryani fractured with it. Every city that received the dish froze its own version in time. When the Mughals made Dhaka the capital of Bengal in 1610, they sent governors east, and those governors brought their cooks. The cooks carried the Kacchi method, raw marinated meat layered with raw rice, sealed and cooked together. That was state of the art in 1610, but back in Lucknow, the cuisine kept evolving. Chefs developed the pakki method. Meat and rice cooked separately first, then layered. So there's more control, more refinement. Now, Dhaka never got the update. It was too far away from the center. So today, 400 years later, Dhakaiya Kacchi biryani is still made the way it was in 1610. It's a culinary fossil of 17th century Awadh. When potatoes arrived in Bengal in the late 1700s, the Kacchi tradition was already 2 centuries old. So the potato just joined the existing pot. It did not change the method, it joined the fossil. And meanwhile, in Lucknow, the Nawabs of Awadh, they were perfecting their own pakki style. Lighter, more elegant, saffron, kevra water, rose water. The meat cooked separately in a fragrant yakni broth. Every spice is restrained. This was biryani as court art, refined the way a royal poet refines a ghazal. If Hyderabadi biryani hits you in the chest, Lucknowi biryani whispers in your ear. Down south, the Qutb Shahi dynasty, the Persian origin rulers of Hyderabad, they developed their own version independently. They kept the Kacchi method but turned up the volume. Guntur chilies, deeper yogurt marinades, fried onions piled thick, tangy, spicy, aggressive. It's the loudest biryani on the subcontinent and the most famous internationally. And it exists because a Persian dynasty landed in South India and started adapting to local heat. And on the Malabar coast, a completely different route. Arab traders had been sailing to Kerala for centuries, long before the Mughals existed. Now, the Mappila community, born from marriages between Arab traders and local women, developed Thalassery biryani using kama rice, a short-grained, fragrant local variety, nothing like basmati. No Mughal influence at all. This is the Arab trade route biryani, not the Mughal court biryani. Same concept, and it's a completely different genealogy. And then there's Kolkata, my favorite. In 1856, the British deposed Wajid Ali Shah, the last Nawab of Awadh, and exiled him to Calcutta. He was heartbroken. He settled in a suburb called Metiabruz, built a miniature replica of Lucknow, complete with mosques, gardens, pigeon flying, poetry nights, and brought his royal cooks with him. They started making Awadhi biryani in exile, but the Nawab had lost his kingdom. The traditional story says his cooks could not afford enough meat, so they added potatoes and eggs to stretch the portions. Now, some historians dispute this. His great great grandson Shahenshah Mirza says potato was actually an exotic ingredient at the time, and the cooks were experimenting, not being cheap. Either way, the potato went in and it never came out. Today, Kolkata biryani without aloo or potato is blasphemy. The potato is either a poverty line from 1856 or a royal experiment from a heartbroken king. And that ambiguity is itself a layer in the fossil record. So, one dish, a Tamil warrior's ration from 2000 years ago, a Persian word meaning to fry, a Mughal emperor's court recipe from 1590, a Lucknowi Nawab's refinement, a Hyderabadi dynasty's adaptation to southern heat, a Arab trader's marriage to a Malabar coast, a Dhakaiya cook who never got the memo that Lucknow had moved on, and a deposed king in Calcutta who either could not afford meat or just loved potatoes. Every biryani is a layer, every ingredient is a date, and we are not just eating a spiced dinner, we are reading a history that nobody wrote down except in the recipe.